Well, welcome to another episode of the Addy Hour. I'm actually really loving the topic that we're going to be talking about today, self-care, vulnerability, and real talk with Tara Schuster. And I think this is a topic that's really salient and important for all of us. I know definitely for me with everything that I have going on with the challenges that come on a daily basis. I think for all of us as a society, this is just something that's really important and relevant to all of us. So I'm honored to be able to welcome Tara on the program today. For any who don't know her, I'm going to give you just a little bit of an introduction. Tara is a best-selling author and playwright. She's also an accomplished and seasoned entertainment executive. She served as a vice president of talent and development at Comedy Central, where she was the executive in charge of 2 Emmy-winning shows, Key and Peele and At Midnight. In 2020, she also released a book, Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies, which debuted at #1 in humor essays and self-help on Audible and Kindle, and was also considered by many magazines as one of the best new books in 2020. So again, I'm deeply honored to be able to welcome Tara Schuster to the program today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Addy. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you.
Well, definitely looking forward to it. And just knowing your work and the conversations that you've had over the years, your book, your upcoming book as well, I think this is just going to be a great conversation and topic a lot of our listeners will really be able to engage with as well. So as you know, as our listeners know, I always like to start with a check-in. So just wanted to start there and just see how you're doing these days in the midst of everything that we're all dealing with as a society, and just the things that you're even walking through in your personal life as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of ups and downs. I can't lie.
Yeah.
And I would honestly question anybody who's not feeling some amount of ups and downs. And my hope in my own growth is to find equanimity at some point, but I don't got that at this exact moment.
Yeah.
So, that said, I am finding myself better and better able not to be trapped in my own thought loops and stories and anxieties. And by becoming better at accepting them, accepting that they are just what is happening and that that's not bad. It doesn't make me bad. It doesn't make all my healing all for naught. Like, it's not some catastrophe. It just kind of is. The more and more I get comfortable with that, the easier and easier it is to loosen the grip. And then all of a sudden I'm not in some like anxiety spiral. So I'd say ups and downs, but overall actually a lot more resilient to the different moods my brain and emotions can fling me into. And so, yeah, mixed bag.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Well, I appreciate that honesty. And I think it's interesting that you put those two together too, because you talked about, the honesty of accepting that they're there, but then also still trying to build resilience at the same time. So it's not like you're just accepting it and saying, oh, well, that's just the way it is. And there's nothing that can be done about it.
What I find is if I don't accept it, if I resist it, then I really suffer. Then it has a texture of something like really that's pulling me under. But when I just say, oh, it is what it is, and that's not my entire life, that's just this one little slice, that has become a richer and richer way to just calm down, because the circumstances outside are crazy. Like even though the pandemic seems to be, in a better place than it was, like, what does that even mean? A better place in a global pandemic of death and destruction? Like, this is kind of a worst case scenario. So, just trying to cut myself a little slack for the fact that I'm not 100% every single day.
Yeah. I mean, that seems so healthy in a lot of ways. And I mean, you put it in great perspective too. I mean, the pandemic is still going on. It's better, but it's not as if we're completely out. So there's still.
Yeah. Like, it's good for a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a real phrase. Like, when would you have ever said that before? Like, oh, I'm doing good for being in a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. But at the same time, where I know I'm talking like that, a lot of us, we're just all talking that way. So it's just kind of the reality of the moment too. And I think, within the pandemic, even this idea that you've talked about acceptance, it seems like there's a lot more acceptance of how anxiety provoking this has been across the board. I mean, other situations I've said in some ways we've almost gone through a global trauma, just in terms of not knowing exactly how things would play out and all the anxiety that comes with that. So I think for a lot of people who may not have been able to relate as well to anxiety beforehand, this became somewhat of an equalizer. I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
overstating because it also heightened some of the disparities were already there. But in
Right.
the sense that, globally, we were kind of dealing with this uncertainty and anxiety. I think that's been huge for us as a society. But even with the idea of acceptance, why do you think, even though maybe it's easier for people to accept now, why do you think it's just so difficult for us to accept when things are actually challenging? I mean, it seems like it's taboo. We can't talk about it. We pretend that things are fine. Like what's going on there?
It's a funny thing. And it's something I'm writing about, like when you're in line at a grocery store and there's like a woman behind you and she's in tears, completely upset. And you're like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. You're like, I'm pretty sure you're not fine. And like, it's pretty weird that our gut reaction is just deny, deny, deny. I'm fine. Distance from this. And I think there are a couple things going on. I think on the societal level, and particularly in America, we have the individual, the lone individual who's like going to do it on their own. And we sell ourselves that myth, and we're supposed to be so strong and never ask for help. And then, my book is half memoir, half self-help. And I remember when I was talking to the marketing people and they told me, well, it's going to be in the self-help category. I was like, ew, I don't want to be a self-help writer. Like, that's so cheesy and gross and terrible and lame. And I really had to check myself of why is it bad to help yourself?
Yeah.
Like, the people who have the power to pick up a self-help book should be lauded. Like, those are the powerful, strong people who are taking a step back and saying, I have an issue and I'm strong enough to deal with it. So I think we're fed a bunch of lies about how we need to do things alone. I think that's one part. And then the other part, I think, is we use terms like I'm fine, I'm okay when we're genuinely not, so that we can distance ourselves from what's real. Like, it's I think a defense mechanism a lot of the time, to reject the reality, reject the pain. I'm fine, moving on. I don't want to talk about it. And it also gives everyone in our lives cover, because then they don't have to be intimate with our problems either. We can, and then they don't have to face their own issues that our issues might kick up.
Yeah.
And it just puts us all in a terrible position, because then everybody's lying. Like, nothing is true.
Yeah.
And people feel like they can't reach out and ask for help because they don't think anybody else is experiencing what they're experiencing, because what we're fed is that we should all just be fine.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my take on why we default to I'm fine, which also, by the way, is so lame. Like, I don't want to live my life as fine.
True.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, I want to feel something
than that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's so important. I think, like you said, it just leaves a stigma in place too. Some of our earlier episodes, we were talking with an NFL player, and he was saying some of the same types of things in terms of nobody wanting to talk about it, everybody going through it themselves. But once you get everyone in the room actually talking about it, then they're all like realizing that they're all dealing with the same thing. They thought they were the only one. Then so you get this collective group therapy type of moment where people can actually walk through things together and actually learn from each other. So I think that's so important.
And I think we're kind of in a societal group therapy moment, there's great disparities about what kinds of suffering and what disadvantages people have. And, there's a lot packed in within that. But if you are a human on planet Earth currently, our current circumstances are not ideal. So to some extent, everybody is kind of being confronted with this. And I think, even having publicly athletes, like the football player you mentioned, or, this week, the tennis player in the French Open dropping out for her own mental health, like having examples of people saying like, hey, wait, my mental health is my priority. Without that, there's nothing else. I mean, this wouldn't have happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly
right.
People were not this open. So I think it might be an unintended good consequence of the pandemic, is just it ripped off so much of the artifice and so much of the like, everything is fine. We just, patchworked over this whole thing, and doesn't it look nice? And it's like, no, it doesn't. It's the insides are rotten.
Exactly. Yeah. And I noticed even the timing of your book release too. I'm sure you weren't predicting that and intentionally planning to release a book during the pandemic, but how do you think that affected like how it was received? Do you think there was a tie in there?
I 100%. Obviously you work so hard on a book, in some ways that book took me 30 years to write. It took 3 dedicated years, but 30 of thinking about the book. And I was supposed to go on like a big book tour and bought a dress to wear. And like that dress is still sitting in my closet a year and a half later. Like who knows when I'm going to wear that dress. So that was different. That was an adjustment, and that had its own amount of grief for me, because it wasn't how I pictured things going, and it wasn't what I expected. And the book coming out in the pandemic was the perfect time for this exact message, because people desperately needed with so much structure taken out of their lives, it was actually the perfect time to build in some good habits. And everything in my book, my book is about self-care and how to bring small rituals into your life that help you enjoy your life and be present for it. People had time to try these things, even if if, for example, if you weren't commuting to the office anymore, that meant you had 20 minutes to journal. And because everything in my book is free or super low cost, there were also just no barriers to entry there. And it helped that the book was sold in Target. So while you were like grabbing all your toilet paper and beans, you could pick up this pretty book with flowers on it. And so in this really messed up way, it was the perfect time for this book to come out. And I think I probably reached a much broader audience than I otherwise would have. And I'm not happy that, it was released at like, I'm not like the kind of person who needs to look for silver linings and everything. I just think both things are true. Like, it was sad that it happened in a way that I didn't expect, and amazing and wonderful. And I've been able to connect with so many people and hopefully be helpful in a time where I would really want to be helpful. Like this is the time to serve your community. If not now, then when,
Yeah. So important. So, the investment I think is so worthwhile for so many people. And even, as you're talking through this, I'm just curious to you about how you even got yourself to that place of putting a book together, especially with your initial kind of reaction to the whole self-care mode, and then to getting to a place of, the way you're talking now, really wanting to invest in people in the community and kind of empower people. Like, how did that transition happen?
Yeah. So I guess for me, I never set out to write a book. Like that was not on my mind. I set out to save my life. The origins of the book were, I grew up in a neglectful, psychologically abusive household where things came to die. My first memory is of a family of deer dying in our lap pool and me seeing their waterlogged carcasses on a blue tarp. I was like probably 5.
Wow.
And it was just an unsafe place to grow up. Chaos, constant screaming from my parents. And I didn't have any role models of like, no one was taking care of me. They weren't taking care of them. There was just no thought that maybe it would be important to take care of yourself. So I really used external achievement as a way to get myself out of that house. I was the teacher's pet doing the extra credit, extracurricular, literary, magazine, APs, award, hustle. This will save me. Like work will save me. And in a funny way, it kind of did, because it got me to Brown, which was like a fancy Ivy League school that put like a nice stamp on me, which helped me get my first entry-level job at Comedy Central. And I just kept hustling and working and going, and because that's all I knew how to do.
Right.
But in the inside, I was utterly imploding. I was living in a permanent panic attack where my jaw would clench down so hard that like I understood what the term gnashing of teeth meant. Like it created like a chronic migraine, which then I had to take other medication for. Wow. And then I would self-medicate with weed and booze and boys and just trying to distract because I had no interior life. Like there was no there. I didn't know who I was. I was lost. And I might have kept just going that way had I not hit rock bottom on my 25th birthday when I drunk dialed my therapist and threatened to hurt myself. And for me that morning, the morning after, when I was listening to voicemails from her and kind of piecing together, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Like I could have killed myself. Like my therapist, who was like a very rational, calm, vaguely European woman who always just had on a scarf and a little cup of tea, like she was worried. And that was the first time I got worried. So that morning I just decided, okay, I don't have parents. I don't have like a wise mentor to go to, but I do have my hustle. Like I do have this thing in me that's always trying to achieve. So what if I made a Google Doc of how to reparent myself? Like, what if I tried? Like, and I just wrote in the Google Doc. It started with just questions I had, like, what are values? What are principles? What are vegetables? Like, genuinely, like, what vegetable should I be eating right now? What is quinoa? Is that a vegetable? The answer is no. Like, so it was, it's an ancient grain. So it was really even that basic. Like, do I need to be drinking water? Yes. Would making my bed be a good idea? Hell yes. Like, very basic things like that, but then much bigger things like confronting why am I in the same romantic relationship over and over and over again? And why am I so comfortable when other people make me feel uncomfortable or make me feel small? Like, why is that so familiar? And so I did this for 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, I had a 600-page Google document. I felt like a completely different person. I felt stable. I wasn't self-medicating. I wasn't running away from my life. I was living it. And that's when I decided I have an offering. I have something to share with other people. I wish someone had shared their journey with me. That would have been helpful. And as I wrote that book, and I realized, I have all these like tricks too. Like, cause just from my Google Doc, I would have like a list. Like I started listing what makes me feel good. Like I really started noticing this is what makes me feel good. And these are the questions that help me in my journal. And, this is how exercising affects my body and my brain. So I just had all of these lists that I thought might be helpful to somebody else. And so they just became a part of the stories to me. And once I realized it was useful, then I kind of got over my initial, I don't want to be a self-help writer, because I'm like, wait, why? Every author who's ever lived, if their book made you feel less alone, was a self-help author in some way. They reached out your hand and said, you belong, and they do it in their own way. And I just wanted to be more explicit because I would have appreciated if someone had been more explicit with me. So that's sort of, I just wanted to be of use and of service. So that's how I got over the sort of my initial disdain of self-help.
Right. Well, I appreciate you taking us through that journey. I mean, there's so much there too. And I'm just impressed by the level of introspection that you had too, to be able to, and diligence to go through that process. Because I think a lot of us would have just gotten tired of that process, to be completely honest, and been like, I can't do this anymore. So the fact that you're able to kind of keep going. I mean, it sounds like you were seeing, would you say you were seeing things change along the way, or was it a specific moment?
Every step was like a brand new life was being born. And I really want to be clear that I wasn't pumped to do this. I wasn't like, yay, this is going to be so fun and not hard. I mean, there were many times where I was just like, why do I have to work so hard at this? Like, why do I, everybody else, like, this is when I get really self-pity, which I definitely have in me. Like, why does everybody else just get to live their life? And like, here I am with this stupid Google document, like charting how many drinks of alcohol work for me. Like, why am I even doing this? And why I was even doing this was I wanted to be healthy.
Yeah.
You know, at the bottom of everything, it was like, well, it was for my own health. And so I just kept going. And I think the thing I was born with that, you know, if you believe in God or the universe or whatever, is I was born with a soul that wanted to be healthy. And I don't really have to feed it much more than that. Like, it just wants to be healthy. It just wants to be free. And so when I get tired of this stuff, I just lean back on the truth of me, which is I want to be liberated. I want to be healthy, and let that energy carry me.
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful.
Was that too woo-woo? Did I just go
that was
way
good.
over?
That was definitely good. And I appreciate you talking about the struggle too, because I feel like that's, you know, that's half of it. It doesn't help us when we only hear about the victory on the other side, but to know that like you were like, this is not exciting, it's painful, but I've got to do it. And like, you had this internal God-given drive to just keep going. I mean,
the whole preface to my second book, which I'm working on right now, and it will be way cut down, but is a greatest hits of my complaints about why do I have to do this? It's never been like, oh, this is easy and so fun. Like, if you're listening to this, and you're like, man, it's a struggle to face my life as it really is and heal myself. You are correct.
Yeah.
It is a struggle, and it is really hard, and you can bear it because you already are. Whatever you've been through is already dealing with you. So it's just an opportunity that you can choose your reaction. That it's just like a slight shift. Like, it's a different kind of suffering. It's a suffering I enjoy more.
Yeah.
I guess
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in some ways, you know, as you're talking to, it seems like there's parallels too, to the way that you approached your work before that too. Cause I mean, you basically stayed on your grind. You made sure you knew what you had to do. You did it. But with this, it's the same type of thing. And we don't always think about it that way when we're dealing with emotional challenges. Sometimes it's easy to just feel like, oh, I wish this was just fixed, even though we know, like, deep down, I think we know we still got to put in that work, but just doesn't come naturally.
You're exactly right. It's, you know, when we have a work project and we're like, I need to do this, you know, we think about it rationally, like goal, like here's the small goal, then this, and it'll lead to this, and that's how I'll achieve this. But then take a thing like generosity. Like, I want to be more generous. We just are like, and magically that will happen somehow. Or I want to have a better relationship with my mom. And magically, like, and time will do that. No, it's not time. Yeah. It's work. Just like every other thing in life, it's work. We can all do work. So we can all achieve this. And that is the message of my book: is there is no special reason that I should have been able to reparent myself. I'm special in certain ways. That's not how I'm special. It was just sticking to doing work and having a little faith that I was worth it and that I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so good. I mean, and you're reaping the benefits and then helping so many people at the same time. I mean, again, like, it was such a process, it sounds like, to get there. Because I even heard you talk about, you know, ways that you felt like you're really good at work, but bad at life.
Yeah.
You had to really like come to terms with that.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that whole idea of just being honest with ourselves and be like, okay, this aspect of life needs work, and I can't just leave it and expect it to all of a sudden fix itself.
It's honesty and self-awareness. I mean, those are the keys to having a life that doesn't feel like it's happening to you. Yeah. You know, it's, and it takes a lot to look at yourself and all of your flaws and say like, well, this just is really me, you know, but what I've found is and getting back to acceptance, just accepting that gives me so many options. Like, I have options now to change if I want to. And there's some things about me I don't want to change. Like, I'm an extremely trusting person, often to my own detriment. I don't want to change that about me. Like, I like that. I like that because it opens me up to a lot of possibility, and it's painful because, you know, that's living with your heart on your shoulders just can be a little painful. Yeah. And I can handle that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I'm doing it currently. Yeah. So I do think it's that honest accounting of where we really are and being self-aware enough to know, and I can change this with some work. Like it's not just going to magically hit me one day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so well said. I'm also curious because there's so many topics I feel like resonate with a lot of people, just how people have responded to the book itself. Because one of the pieces that I feel like you've highlighted really well is just how easy it is to be dismissive of any challenges and just to think, well, so-and-so has it worse than me, which could be true. It's often true. And then kind of look back at ourselves and be like, oh, I shouldn't be struggling. Because I mean, I've seen that a lot during the pandemic. Like any specific individual that I talk to, whatever their circumstance is, they feel bad that they're struggling because they can pick out someone else who's doing worse. And they feel like, well, I shouldn't be struggling. Right. And they are struggling, so they can't get as much done, or they're struggling in a certain area and they feel anxious and depressed because they can't move through that. Maybe not clinical depression per se, but that loophole definitely starts to kick in pretty early. So I'm curious, have people talked with you about that as they've been reading through your books? Are there ways that you've tried to even move past that kind of reaction in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you're hitting on, I think, one of the biggest things that I've found, because for so long, I didn't want to heal because I didn't have it that bad. I should be better. And I'm doing massive air quotes. And what I kind of realized was that was not beneficial for other people who perhaps were suffering more from me. Like me minimizing my experience didn't help them. And it certainly wasn't helping me. So just who in the world was I dismissing myself for? And once I kind of like saw that kind of clearly, I realized this isn't helpful. This isn't productive. I got to reframe this. And the writer Lori Gottlieb, who wrote Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, and she's one of my absolute favorite writers, thinkers, everything. She talks about in her book this theory of there's no hierarchy of pain. There really isn't. Nobody's pain is any more valid than anyone else's because it's real. Like you can, like you're talking about your friends or someone who they're denying their own suffering because it's not a worst case scenario. That doesn't mean it isn't still painful for them and that isn't their absolute reality. And so again, if we deny what is real, then we can't deal with anything. So I often ask myself, what would the wisest version of me, how would the wisest version of me handle this situation? I call it future Tara. Like how would future Tara handle this? You know, because I don't have all this wisdom now, but like in the future, maybe. So like, how would she deal with this? And often I wouldn't dismiss myself. I wouldn't call myself stupid and silly. I wouldn't demean myself. I would look at the actual circumstances and try to help myself, try to resource myself and deal with them so that they did not deal with me. And so readers have really picked up on this, and they've talked a lot about feeling like they didn't have the quote unquote worst childhood ever. And that because it wasn't, you know, on the news level bad, they never dealt with it. But now they see that it's dealing with them and that they have to go back and do some work and confront these things that they actually are confronting every single day. So yeah, I've really seen that people kind of being pausing in denying their actual experience.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great just to get people to realize that, because that's half, I don't sound like G.I. Joe, half the battle, but I'm also showing my age.
No, it is. And it's also like people still having trouble with it. Like it's also condescending to think of other people as much, much worse. Like, who are you to even, like, the whole thing is so backwards and weird that it's like better if you can just, however you need to move off of it, just like, let's just move off of that idea.
Yeah. And even the way that you're inspiring so many people too. I mean, another topic that we talk about a lot, and I know we talked about this, you know, offline before too, just that whole balance between helping yourself versus helping other people.
Yeah.
And just the danger of ignoring our own challenges and trying to help other people. I mean, that's also come up in other podcasts before with other psychologists that have come on, you know, as us being healers. The healers can't help heal if they're not going through that healing process too. So how do you balance that in your own life? I mean, with this explosion of support that you're giving while, you know, you still have your own life to kind of walk through too.
It's been an unexpected little bit of an adjustment because I'm still in process. Like, and the thing about my book and my writing is like, I don't know all the answers. I'm not an expert. Like, I don't have a single degree in any of the things I'm talking about. What I am is a little sponge. Like, I just sponge in everything I can learn, and then I try to apply it in a real way that I think is relatable to other people, because I can really break it down.
Yeah.
So that's what I am. I'm not the one who did the research. I'm not the one who like has your degree and is at Yale. So what I've really had, so I've really had to kind of say to myself is, and I don't know, I'm trying to still really figure it out, is how can I be the most helpful? I know what feels the best. The best feelings I have are when I'm writing the book, like when I'm really, really trying to be honest and the work connects with people. I like when I speak to a bigger crowd. That feels really good. I like when I talk one-on-one with somebody, if I just like meet them, but constantly being in my DMs or replying to every single email, even though these messages are utterly beautiful, you know, and even though people are gracing me with the hardest moments of their lives, if I do every single one, I can't write. I can't go speak to a bigger group. So I myself, because I'm so, I crave connection, given that I had none growing up, you know, and I felt so alone. Like, one of my driving forces is a feeling of connection. And so I'm having to figure out, how do I connect? How do I help in a way that I'm not completely depleted, and so that I can continue the work.
Yeah.
So it's really like an open question. I don't know the answer. I have no idea. I'm just still trying to kind of figure it out for myself.
It's a process and a journey. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like I'm on that journey in some ways too.
And you must be in particular, because we talked a little offline too about how even in your profession, like professionally, your job is to help. But then does it become everyone coming to you to kind of like fix or, you know, explain to them what's going on? And does that feel like such a response? Like, I could imagine that feeling both like an honor, you know, this person has come to me, but also wait. Like, I need to maintain some boundaries.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think even for me, it's something I'm still walking through and figuring out on a day-to-day basis. Because like you said, each of those conversations can be so personal and touching and empowering in a sense too, but then knowing how much to engage in those versus, you know, there's a lab research that we do, there's this podcast, obviously.
Right.
And so, you know, I still have to eat and sleep. So just how do you balance that and not spread yourself so thin that you become completely ineffective for everyone? So, I mean, I appreciate the way you're sharing that. And I'd say in a lot of ways, I wouldn't say I've arrived in that place, but some of it's just having folks who can look into and kind of watch and say, okay, I think you're getting a little bit spread thin here. Is there anything to pull back on?
That's interesting. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Flip the script. I got to flip the script for the second. Who in your life asks you that question? Like, hey, are you spread too thin?
Yeah. So I'd say some of it is just like going to people in faith communities. So a pastor that I'm pretty close with, who has basically been in this journey. We did an event together back in 2019 called God, Mental Health and Wellness in New York City. And so having him just kind of interject and check in and see how things are going, opportunities, and just, you know, sometimes not even having to ask the question, but knowing me well enough to be able to kind of sense and ask questions that will get me to that place.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, to be honest, it's just even just acquaintances or not even acquaintances, but colleagues that I know really well. When we sit down and talk about all the different initiatives that are going on in the research. I'm also doing a lot of work around diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism. There's a podcast, there's informal mentoring. So people are asking, someone asked me last week, are you taking enough time for yourself? Like,
what was your answer?
Setting back. I said it's a strategic process. Some days are better than others. And then, you know, you balance in. I mean, I'm married, I have kids as well. So you put all that in the mix. So to be honest, like, to me, when someone asks that kind of pointed question, it's challenging, frustrating, and refreshing all at the same time. Because that's really when I have the opportunity to check myself and say, well, is this actually true? Or am I getting to a point where this is just not sustainable? So,
well, it's so important to have people in your life who like truly know you in that way to even ask the question, and that they're not afraid to ask, like, is this too much? I often silence those people. You know, I have a couple of people in my life who are like, you're doing what now and what now and what now? Is that too much? I'm like, I can handle it. Like, don't put me down. But when I can be not defensive and not a jerk and hear the question, it's always, you're doing way too much. Like, you need to find a middle gear, and I accept that. Except this is a place where I'm processing and trying to figure out, like, what's my middle gear?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking honestly and asking the question too.
Yeah.
I was going to get there, but you made me pull it out even more than I probably would have. So you're very skilled in that sense.
My trick.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's so important in a lot of ways, because it's so easy for us to just, in some ways, just spread too thin and not be about, almost like we're being about too much at once. And then, I've talked to some people just in terms of even just professionally, people saying, well, you're going to have to say no sometimes, and you're going to feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
But you actually just kind of have to deal with it.
Oh, I'm so bad at that.
And just think about where your priorities are. So I think that's another place that it takes some time to get there.
And I think the pandemic has kind of hastened the idea that we need to stick to our priorities. I think a lot of people, what they saw is, maybe going to like 50 weddings and constantly out of town and work wasn't making me happy. And was its like weird own priority and isn't actually in line with what my real priorities are. Or for a lot of people, it was the first time they asked themselves, what are my priorities?
Yeah.
What are they even? And I really hope that coming out of the pandemic, we can retain some sense of our priorities, of who we are and how we want to carry ourselves in the world. And then follow through. So, I remember before the pandemic, like always being on a work trip, complaining to my friends about how much I had to travel. Yeah. And now I look back, I'm like, what a jerk. Like, wasn't even looking at it as the gratitude for, wow, I get to go to cool places, was so jaded that I'm like complaining. And who did that benefit? Because I wasn't enjoying it. And the people I was like flying to their bachelorette in Tulum or whatever, whatever the detail was, people know when you don't want to be somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like you're fooling everybody. Like we're all smart. Like we know. Yeah. The woman who you like have grudgingly agreed to go to lunch with, like as you check your watch, she doesn't feel like seen. So, even with things like, people are starting to ask, like, can you go to coffee again? Like, I'm vaccinated, other fully vaccinated people. And I'm like, do I really want to go to coffee? Because I don't think I do. So now what? I'm really like, I'm just in real time saying my issues right now. Yeah.
So, I mean, in some ways, it sounds like you're reprioritizing too. I think a lot of people have done that, especially the way you talked about your trips too.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to do this. And I know you've talked about that before too, shifting to, I get to do this. And I think for even me personally, a lot of us, those trips now feel like a luxury. Like, wow, if I were going to do that right now, just a whole different perspective on things.
I'm kind of scared, to be honest. Like I haven't flown yet. I don't have any real like big trips planned. I used to travel all of the time and I love traveling. And now I'm just kind of scared. I'm scared of my life getting out of control. I don't want to ever go back to the place where I wasn't prioritizing the things that really matter to me. And the pandemic, I was fortunate to be in a situation where I got to focus on the things that mattered to me. And it's almost like a drug addict, you know, and like I'm seeing like, and now I'm in the room again with all the things that used to, you know, get me high or whatever. And then for me, it's like travel, distraction, constant plans, planning, doing. Those are my, that's my drug of choice. And so I'm a little afraid. Like I'm actually a little afraid.
Yeah. How are you going to re-engage? I mean, do you have between that and just like your daily self-care, like how do you plan to step back into the world? Or is that still a process you're figuring out?
I think it's saying no more, like doing a lot less, doing the things I actually want to do, and baby stepping. You know, I'm going to take my first trip with two of my best friends. We're going to do a one night overnight by the beach this weekend. You know, that feels like a good
small.
Start small, start incrementally, remember the big picture, which is I don't want to overplan again. I don't need to distract myself from my life. Not everything has to be an achievement. And even working it into my everyday schedule so that I have more breaks. You know, even when I'm writing, that I write by timing myself. So I have like a timer, and when the timer goes off after an hour, I'm free. And so then I get up, I dance to one song, and then I sit back down. Nice. It's my second hour, but it's that little break, you know, that little time to enjoy and not to produce and not make anything.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to bake into my life the habits of what my actual priorities are, as opposed to just get back into the swing of things as soon as I possibly can.
Right. Yeah. I appreciate you kind of walking us through that in real time. And I think that's so, I mean, I love the incremental steps and just kind of re-engaging. I mean, in a lot of ways, like everything you're talking about is self-care too. And thinking ahead. I mean, in some ways, when you're talking about future Tara, it's like you're anticipating what you'll learn and trying to teach that to yourself now to use that to kind of continue to move forward, which I think is great.
Or I think it's really to give future Tara the resources she needs. Because I'm not smart enough. I don't know like what she's going to learn. I'm not a fortune teller, but like I can feel out what resources that person I might want to be needs. And I can give her that. I can make choices today, you know, and that is self-care because that's everything. That's like, so I can go for a run. You know, I don't know, ultimately, am I going to lose a little weight? Am I not? I don't know. But I can go on this run. That's how I eat. You know, what's this all going to mean in the future? I don't know. But I can eat more fruits and vegetables. Like I definitely can do that. And it's even like very practical things like around fertility. Like I just went through an egg retrieval process, which was a whole other topic. But I definitely did that for the future version of myself to have more options. So I think one really good self-care tip is thinking about what will you want to be possible for yourself in the future and what resources can you give that version of yourself today? Because then you benefit from that in the present and you benefit from that in the future. Yeah,
that's so good. I really love that perspective and just the way that you're carrying that out on a daily basis in a lot of ways. And the way you're sharing that with us too. So definitely towards that real talk piece. On that note, I'm curious just even about, and you've talked about this already, but just legacy. Like what are you trying? I know sometimes we don't think about that at a younger age, but I think, you know, just with the type of work you're doing, I'm just curious if that's something that you've thought through and what you're trying to leave for others in a sense.
Yeah, I oddly try to think about it every day. And I don't use the word legacy, but I do think about when I'm dead and it's my funeral, what do I want said about me? Like what's the impact I wanted to have on other people's lives? And am I living in accordance with that? And I think the most important thing is I want to be remembered as somebody who saw other people, who made other people feel like they belonged, who made other people feel less lonely, and who really thought and held other people, you know, and that would be a life well lived, is if I was a thoughtful passenger here. And so it's definitely, that's like the big one. And then the second thing I think about is I want to show gratitude for the fact that I ever got to live by enjoying this time and not making it like a constant struggle and a crisis to endure, but really luxuriating in the details of a sunny day in Los Angeles where I got to take a run and feel sweat on my body. And I got to talk to you, Dr. Addy, and that is actually magical. Like that's lucky. That's cool. My act of gratitude is to actually enjoy it and not just let it like wash over me, not let my life just like rush away. So those are so I really do think about it quite often. And I encourage other people to really think about, what do you want said about you? You know, like it's morbid, but it's also very freeing because you then realize, oh, I have a lot of say in that. It's not some it's not some magical mystery. It's, you got to do the work.
Yeah. Wow. That's so good. I mean, thriving in a sense, as you're talking about, not just being, but really thriving.
Yeah.
The first, having that impact and caring for those around you. I get the sense just in talking to you, and then from everything you talked about with your book, that I feel like you're definitely fulfilling that purpose in a lot of ways in a lot of people's lives. So definitely appreciate you. Do you want to share about the new book at all? Is that premature? Do you want to?
It's a little early, but
Okay.
I'm very excited that I get to write another book. That's very exciting to me.
Yeah. Well said. Well, definitely appreciate you taking the time to share your journey with us. I'm impressed that you pulled some of that out of me too. I think that was well done. But yeah, just, so much here. And I just really appreciate the realness and, you talking through how you got to this point, what you're kind of trying to do to go through on a daily basis. And I think there's so many lessons that all of us can learn just in walking through this life with you, vicariously through your book, through these engagements and things like that. So definitely appreciate you sharing and taking time to jump on the Addy Hour today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and thank you for such a thoughtful conversation and for sharing yourself, because I know that's not easy to really share, and I really appreciate that you did.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking the question. All right. Thanks so much, Tara.
Thank you.